Thank you for welcoming me. Great to be together in this kind of mode. We've talked a lot over the years. It's nice to do this here.
Absolutely. It's wonderful, Jack. You've written a new book, Swimming with the Sharks, Leading the Full Spectrum Church in a Red and Blue World. It's a great book. I like it a lot. I want to talk to you about it in depth. But first, I would be remiss if I didn't say that it's trite often when people say this, but I believe in it. I mean, our thoughts and prayers are with you and the folks in Central Texas. I mean, I can't imagine with the fudge and just the tragedy and it's just and the power of collective grief. I mean, I saw you were on CNN briefly where you talked a little bit about the experience. Do you want to just quickly say, I mean, what's it like living in the wake of this tragedy? It's just such a weird facet of modern life, late modern life, that we can all watch a tragedy that we don't experience, and you're there experiencing
Yeah,
it. So what's going on there?
yeah. It is so weird. I've done this before. I was right on Kennedy Space Center as a pastor when the first shuttle blew up. I was right next to Johnson Space Center when the second shuttle blew up. It's this incredibly existential connection. It is. I mean, we're watching on TV the stuff that's right down the street from us. Most of these shots that we're watching on TV are right in my neighborhood. I cross those bridges doing from downtown, and there's this glaze over people's faces everywhere you go, in the stores, wherever we are. They might be tearing up. They might be just kind of almost kind of a blank stare. It is an incredibly deep, profound thing to be in the middle of. In a way, a gift to be able to be connected with people that you would have never noticed before. But obviously, that's a tiny little silver lining of what is a terribly difficult cloud to have to live through. Losing friends, losing neighbors. It's happened to all of us, and it's been an incredible journey, and it will be for quite a while. These search and rescue folks are trying, digging through the waters up to their chests in water, just feeling for anybody. It's a terrible thing. It's to find nobody, but it's even worse to find somebody.
Well, we're again. I'm sure my thoughts and prayers are with you all, as there's so many.
Mm.
Jack, you've written a really interesting book here about the church, about how you navigate the cultural landscape that is. I mean, if we were making guess who's coming to dinner now, it wouldn't be a racial story, it'd be a political one, right? It
Oh my
wouldn't be
gosh,
Sidney
yes.
Poitier, it would be somebody wearing a MAGA hat or somebody from a protest saying queers for Palestine or something, and that would be who's
Right.
coming to dinner, right? That would be the thing, that would be the taboo, shocking experience. You're saying that the church has a future in this world, and you think it's maybe a bright future, right? I mean, and it's a future maybe that exists in between, uh, in between two great biblical spots, right? In between Carmel and Caesarea. Jack, why Carmel and Caesarea?
Yeah.
Are these the sort of geographic landmarks that might chart the way forward for the church in these times?
The metaphor you're referencing early in my book is about traveling in Israel, going to, as a first place, as a tour in the Holy Land, to go to Caesarea, which is where the gospel broke out from its Jewish circle, which is almost all of the ministry of Jesus, and all of his disciples are Jewish. But they go in Caesarea, you've got outbreak of faith among Roman guards named in a city named in Israel, but it's named after Caesar because it was Roman all the way. And these guards come to faith, and suddenly that becomes a port city for the gospel to break out to all of Europe, to all of the Gentile world. But the flip side is right up the street from that is Mount Carmel, where Elijah battled against the prophets of Baal, the prophets of paganism, and defeated them because the truth is always on the side of God against paganism. When I was there for the first time 30 years ago, I was shocked into, oh my gosh, standing on Carmel, looking down in Caesarea and saying, this is where Christianity is in my country. We're living in the divide between openness, as in Caesarea, and defensive protection of the truth, as in Mount Carmel. Is where we are. It's not new, but it's taken on a whole nother level of extremity in the division in our country right now between those who are the MAGA red and those are the woke blue. And they're deep, devout Christians in both of those camps, but a whole lot that don't fit either place. And I'm calling for us to find a way to be together, actually to work together by acknowledging those differences and holding on to the core of what we hold together. A lot, you can unpack that, if you will.
Yeah, Jack, I'm supposed to do a podcast a little later today. I do another podcast called New Persuasive Words with a friend of mine who you might know, Presbyterian Bill Bohr, former Presbyterian pastor. And we're going to do something about William Jennings Bryan. And what it strikes me about William Jennings Bryan, this great populist figure who ran for president like 3 times and lost, is that he was able on one hand to be this vociferous critic of a naturalistic philosophy, which he thought was going to lead to social Darwinism and dehumanization on one hand. And yet he also had a progressive politics. He was worried about consumerism, about his famous cross of gold speech where he says, are we going to crucify the marginal on a cross of gold? And he was a progressives. He was able to hold these things together. Why don't we see people like that today in the church, Jack? Why don't we see people that have these sorts of convictions? That why don't we see Carmel and Caesarea more integrated? It seems like no one embodies that, except maybe you, Jack. I mean, maybe you're the one we're looking for. But why don't we see that more often?
Well, first, a side anecdote about William Jennings Bryan. He ran for president 3 times, defeated, ran for General Assembly moderator of the Presbyterian Church, and twice defeated. So he was 0 for 5. 2 of his bosses were among us who are Presbyterian. But it is a tragedy that so few people seem to know how to live life in paradox. I mean, life is filled with paradox, and all of us embrace paradox on so many levels. I mean, the holiest holy evangelical Christians, which is the brand I've worn for most of my life, are almost always marrying couples that are living together. And when I was in seminary 3 years ago, that was unthinkable. You'd force them to separate in order to be married. But now it's done all the time. Or very, very few places that are shutting that down, and they just kind of wink at the. And some of those points of disagreement have become paradox, convenient ways to define the enemy. And almost always, it's those who are not committing the sins that we commit, or they're committing what we consider to be sins to which we are not tempted. It's really easy for heterosexuals to hate homosexuals because 90% of us don't have that even as a temptation, no less as a behavior. But God forbid that we should make